The ground shook like an earthquake. At 9:02 a.m. on April 19, 1995, a massive explosion ripped through the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. Glass shattered across downtown. Cars flipped. Walls collapsed like paper. Smoke filled the sky. Inside the building, people screamed. Some never had the chance. In seconds, 168 people were dead. 19 of them were children. A daycare center on the second floor was crushed. Parents would soon arrive to pick up their kids, only to face silence, rubble, and fear. Firefighters, police officers, and strangers rushed toward the damage, not knowing if another bomb was coming. The heart of America felt broken. And at that moment, no one knew who had done it or why. As rescue teams searched the ruins, one man was already driving away from Oklahoma City. His name was Timothy McVeigh, and he was about to become the deadliest domestic terror attack the United States had ever seen. But before the nation learned his name, a single traffic stop would change everything. Hours after the bombing, Oklahoma State Trooper Charlie Hanger pulled over a yellow Mercury Marquis for having no license plate. The driver was calm, too calm. His name was Timothy McVeigh. In his jacket was a loaded handgun. He was arrested for carrying a firearm without a permit. At the time, no one knew this quiet man had just helped murder 168 people. He sat in jail as the country searched desperately for answers. The investigation began at once. The FBI, ATF, and local police flooded Oklahoma City. They searched the rubble day and night. Among the twisted metal and broken concrete, investigators found something important: parts of a truck axle. This was not an accident. This was a planned bombing, and the bomb was huge. As agents followed the trail of the truck parts, they learned the bomb had been built using fertilizer and fuel oil. It was a simple but deadly mixture, the kind that could be made by someone who hated the government and wanted revenge. Slowly, the picture became clearer. This was not foreign terrorism. This was homegrown. The truck axle led investigators to a rental truck company. Records showed a Ryder truck had been rented days before the bombing. A sketch was made of the renter. It looked like Timothy McVeigh. When agents checked jail records, they froze. McVeigh was already in custody. The man behind the bombing was sitting in a cell for a traffic violation. As the nation watched, Timothy McVeigh was charged with murder and terrorism. People wanted to know who he was, what kind of person could kill children and feel no regret. The answer was dark and disturbing. McVeigh was a former U.S. Army soldier. He believed the government was evil. He was angry about events like the 1993 Waco siege, where federal agents clashed with a religious group, ending in fire and death. In McVeigh's mind, the government had become the enemy. He believed violence was the only answer.
But McVeigh did not act alone. Investigators soon uncovered the name Terry Nichols, a longtime friend who helped plan the attack. Nichols had helped gather materials and knew what McVeigh intended to do. Another man, Michael Fortier, knew about the plan ahead of time, but did not stop it. All three lives were now tied forever to the Oklahoma City bombing. As days passed, the rescue effort turned into recovery. Hope faded. Names were read aloud. Families waited for news that never came. The country mourned together. Vigils were held. Flags were lowered. President Bill Clinton visited the site and promised justice. McVeigh showed no remorse. He stared coldly during court appearances. He believed he was right. That belief would soon be tested in a courtroom where every detail of the bombing would be laid bare for the world to hear. But as the trial approached, investigators uncovered something even more frightening: evidence that McVeigh may not have acted as alone as he claimed. Questions grew. Were there more people involved? Were there other plans that never happened? And could another attack be coming? As America tried to heal, a deeper fear began to rise. If one man could do this, what else was possible? And as Timothy McVeigh prepared to face trial, One question haunted the nation. Was justice enough, or had the warning come too late? The courtroom fell silent as Timothy McVeigh was brought in, his hands cuffed, his face empty of emotion. Families of the victims filled the seats behind him. Some held photos, some held each other. Others could barely look at the man accused of destroying their lives. The trial of the Oklahoma City bombing had begun, and the entire nation was watching. Prosecutors opened with a simple truth. This was not an accident. This was a planned act of hate. They explained how McVeigh had carefully chosen April 19, 1995, the anniversary of the Waco siege. They showed how he parked the rented Ryder truck directly in front of the Murrah Federal Building. Inside the truck was a massive bomb made of fertilizer and fuel oil. When it exploded, the blast tore the building apart from the inside out. The jury listened as experts described the damage. Floors collapsed, support columns snapped. The daycare center was hit hardest. The calm voices of the witnesses made the horror even more real. Parents in the courtroom cried quietly. Some had lost children. Others had lost spouses, brothers, or sisters. Each story added weight to the room. Then came the evidence. Investigators traced the fertilizer purchase back to McVeigh. Witnesses placed him near the truck rental location. A motel clerk remembered him staying nearby before the bombing. His fingerprint was found on a receipt connected to the truck. Piece by piece, the case tightened around him like a trap. The defense tried to raise doubt. They suggested McVeigh had help from unknown groups. They hinted at missing evidence. But McVeigh himself refused to help his lawyers. He would not deny the bombing. He would not say sorry. To many watching, his silence spoke louder than words.
While McVeigh sat stone-faced, the trial turned its focus to Terry Nichols. Nichols had helped McVeigh gather supplies and store bomb-making materials. Unlike McVeigh, Nichols showed signs of fear. He knew he was part of something terrible. He was later convicted and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Michael Fortier, the third man connected to the plot, took a plea deal. He admitted he knew about the bombing plans, but failed to warn anyone. His testimony helped confirm McVeigh's guilt. Fortier was sentenced to prison, but many families believed he deserved more punishment. Outside the courtroom, America struggled to understand how this happened. This was not a foreign enemy. This was not a secret army. This was one angry man, fueled by hate and lies. The bombing forced the country to face a hard truth. Danger could come from within. As the trial continued, prosecutors showed videos of the blast, photos of the ruins, and recordings of emergency calls. The jury saw the chaos, the dust-covered survivors, the rescuers digging with bare hands. It was impossible to forget, impossible to ignore. McVeigh never flinched. He did not cry. He did not look back at the families. Some believed he felt proud. Others believed he felt nothing at all. To the victims, it did not matter. What mattered was justice. In 1997, the verdict came. Timothy McVeigh was found guilty on all counts, including murder and conspiracy. The judge sentenced him to death. There was no reaction, no apology, just a quiet acceptance of the sentence. But even with the verdict, the story was not over. Appeals followed. Years passed. Families waited again, this time for closure. Some wondered if executing McVeigh would bring peace. Others feared it would not be enough. Meanwhile, changes were already happening across the country. Federal buildings added barriers. Security increased. The government began taking domestic extremism more seriously. The bombing had changed America forever. Yet one final chapter remained. Timothy McVeigh was still alive. He was still silent. And as the date of his execution approached, the nation braced itself once more,
knowing that the end of his life would reopen wounds that had never truly healed. And just before the final moment arrived, McVeigh made a choice that stunned everyone, a choice that would leave behind new questions instead of peace. April 13, 2001 was the day America would watch justice unfold. Timothy McVeigh, now on federal death row, was led to the execution chamber in Terre Haute, Indiana. The room was silent except for the low hum of machines and the whispers of the witnesses. Among them were survivors, family members of the victims, law enforcement officers, and journalists. Hearts pounded. Memories of that horrific morning in 1995 came rushing back. McVeigh, dressed in a gray prison jumpsuit, looked calm. Some said he seemed almost defiant. Others said he looked resigned. The execution team strapped him to the gurney. He was asked if he had any last words. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Then he spoke. "I am sorry. I have no other words." The statement, brief and cold, shocked the families who had waited 6 long years for this moment.
As lethal chemicals flowed into his veins, the room held its breath. Slowly, the monitors showed his heart rate slowing, and then the silence of finality. Timothy McVeigh, the man who had taken 168 lives in seconds, was gone. The execution marked the end of a chapter in American history, but the impact of his actions would never fully fade. Families still grieved. Survivors still remembered. The scars left by that bomb ran deep, not just in Oklahoma City, but across the nation. Yet even after McVeigh's death, questions lingered. How could one man feel so much anger, so much hatred, that he would plan and execute such a horrific act? Could another person like him emerge? The investigation into the bombing had revealed his motives, his connections, and his methods, but it also exposed a dangerous truth, that domestic terrorism was real, and the threat of it could appear anywhere. The Oklahoma City bombing also forced changes. Federal buildings installed blast-resistant barriers, security protocols were tightened, emergency response systems were upgraded. The tragedy became a lesson in vigilance, a reminder that ordinary places could be targeted by extraordinary violence. Schools, workplaces, and government offices all became more cautious, more aware. Meanwhile, Terry Nichols, McVeigh's accomplice, remained in prison, serving multiple life sentences. Michael Fortier, who had cooperated with authorities, lived under strict supervision. But the shadow of that morning never lifted. Survivors and families of the victims still visited the Oklahoma City National Memorial, which preserves the names of the dead and the memory of the lives destroyed. Every year, people gather at the site to honor the victims and remind the world that such horror should never be forgotten. The story of the Oklahoma City bombing is more than a tale of crime and punishment. It is a story of loss, resilience, and the fight to ensure safety in a world where hatred can explode without warning. It is a story that teaches vigilance, compassion, and the consequences of extremism. And even as time passes, it continues to haunt the nation, a reminder of April 19, 1995, the day terror hit at home. In the end, justice was served through the law, but the memory of the victims, the bravery of the rescuers, and the lessons learned from that tragedy remain alive. The Oklahoma City bombing investigation revealed the horrifying depths of domestic terrorism, the meticulous planning behind McVeigh's attack, and the resilience of a nation forced to rise from rubble. And though McVeigh's life ended, the story of that fateful morning continues to teach, warn, and remind every American that vigilance and unity are essential in the face of hate.
Even after Timothy McVeigh's execution, the Oklahoma City bombing left echoes that would never fade. Families of the victims struggled with grief, while survivors carried the trauma of that day for the rest of their lives. Every time a siren wailed or a building alarm rang, memories of April 19, 1995 came rushing back. The city of Oklahoma City itself had to rebuild, not just its structures, but its sense of security and community. Investigators continued examining every detail. They pieced together McVeigh's meticulous planning, from renting the truck to gathering explosives, and uncovered the role of his accomplices, Terry Nichols and Michael Fortier. Law enforcement agencies studied the attack for lessons on prevention, emergency response, and domestic extremism. It became clear that McVeigh's anger at the federal government, fueled by events like the Waco siege and Ruby Ridge, had driven him to commit an atrocity that could have happened anywhere. The tragedy also led to lasting change. Federal buildings added barriers, surveillance, and security checkpoints. Emergency services across the nation revised protocols to respond faster to large-scale disasters. Schools, offices, and public spaces became more cautious. New laws and programs targeted domestic terrorism and radicalization, aiming to prevent another McVeigh from emerging. Yet, perhaps the most powerful legacy of the bombing was human resilience. Amid the rubble, stories of heroism shone through. Strangers pulled survivors from wreckage. Firefighters, police, and ordinary citizens risked their lives to save others. Communities came together, helping families of the victims and supporting each other through unimaginable grief. Memorials were built, names of the 168 victims engraved in stone, and an eternal flame placed to honor their memory. The Oklahoma City National Memorial stands today not only as a reminder of loss, but as a symbol of hope, courage, and unity. The Oklahoma City bombing was not just an attack on a building, it was an attack on innocence, safety, and the trust people have in their government and communities. Timothy McVeigh's actions revealed the destructive power of anger and ideology when combined with careful planning. But the response of a grieving yet resilient nation showed the opposite: the power of courage, compassion, and solidarity. Even decades later, the bombing serves as a warning. It teaches the world about vigilance against domestic threats, the consequences of hate, and the importance of unity in the face of tragedy. From the first terrifying explosion to the last moments of McVeigh's life, the Oklahoma City bombing remains a defining moment in U.S. history, a story of horror, loss, justice, and ultimately resilience. And though McVeigh is gone, the memory of that day and the lives affected will never be forgotten. The story ends here, but the lessons live on for every American that safety, awareness, and community are the strongest defenses against hate. This is more than a story of destruction. It is a story of warning, resilience, and remembrance. As we honor the victims and reflect on the past, one truth is clear: we must never forget the lives lost, the lessons learned, and the strength it took for a nation to heal.